Listen to me. The difference between people who dream and people who dominate, it's not luck. It's not talent. It's not even intelligence. It's constance. Why? Every single day, life is testing your commitment. The question isn't, can you do it once? It's, can you show up when it's boring, when it's painful, when nobody's watching? Because success doesn't happen in explosions. It happens in drops, one disciplined action after another. The truth is, most people are addicted to motivation, but champions are addicted to momentum. And here's the urgency. Every day you hesitate, your habits are hardening. You're programming your future right now, whether you realize it or not. So if you want to transform your life, stop chasing intensity and start mastering consistency. The silent force that separates the average from the unstoppable. Motivation is a spark, but discipline is the fire that keeps burning when everything else fades. Motivation feels good. It excites you. It pushes you to start. But let's be honest, motivation is emotional. It's inconsistent. It's unreliable. One day you feel unstoppable. The next you feel like doing nothing. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. Discipline doesn't wait for the right mood, the perfect timing, or the burst of energy. Discipline acts no matter what. Men and women both crave progress, but they often fall into the same psychological trap, believing that emotion will carry them through transformation. Emotion can start the engine, but it's discipline that drives the vehicle all the way to the finish line. When you rely on motivation, you become a slave to your mood. When you build discipline, you become the master of your destiny. The difference between those who dream and those who dominate is simple. One waits for inspiration, the other creates results even when inspiration disappears. Discipline is the great equalizer. It doesn't care about your gender, your background, or your circumstances. For men, discipline builds confidence because it creates consistency, and consistency creates results. Every rep in the gym, every page rate, every early morning alarm answered, it all stacks into a quiet, unshakable strength. For women, discipline sharpens emotional power into purpose. It transforms resilience into precision and builds an inner structure that doesn't crumble when life throws chaos their way. Discipline gives both men and women the same edge, control over their actions, even when their emotions scream otherwise. Most people wait until they feel ready to start. But the truth is, the mind is never ready. It's programmed to protect you, to keep you safe inside your comfort zone. Discipline doesn't negotiate with fear. It simply says, I'll do it anyway. It's the muscle that gets stronger every time you act in spite of resistance. The man who disciplines himself to rise when it's hard becomes the man others look to for strength. The woman who disciplines herself to persist when doubt whispers becomes the woman others see as unbreakable. That's the power of self-command. It makes you untouchable by circumstances. When you train yourself to show up daily, something incredible happens. You stop relying on motivation altogether. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to move from impulse to intention. Discipline rewires your brain to seek progress over pleasure, growth over comfort, and consistency over chaos. You begin to realize that your actions no longer depend on how you feel. They depend on who you've decided to become. That's when your power multiplies. Discipline isn't about being harsh or rigid. It's about honoring your potential. It's about respecting yourself enough to follow through on your promises. Men and women who understand this principle don't need to be told what to do. They lead themselves. They act when it's inconvenient, they push when it's uncomfortable, and they rise when it would be easier to quit. Because at the end of the day, motivation gets you started, but discipline keeps you unstoppable. Big goals don't require massive action once. They require small, consistent steps taken every single day. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year. They chase intensity, they crave overnight success, but the real transformation comes from quiet, disciplined repetition. Those small steps, those simple daily choices, they look insignificant in the moment, but they're compounding beneath the surface, building momentum, shaping habits, and forging identity. It's the power of consistency that multiplies effort into greatness over time. Men and women both struggle with the same illusion, the belief that success requires dramatic change, some sudden breakthrough moment. The truth is, there are no overnight transformations, only unseen hours of practice, dedication, and persistence. The man who commits to reading 10 pages a day will be a different thinker in a year. The woman who decides to move her body for just 20 minutes daily will possess a level of confidence and energy she never imagined. These actions are small enough to ignore, but powerful enough to change everything if repeated with intention. The psychology behind it is simple but profound. The brain doesn't respond to massive, inconsistent action, it responds to patterns. What you repeat, you reinforce. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, even a small one, you're strengthening your identity as someone who follows through. That identity becomes the foundation for everything else. Men often look for a challenge big enough to prove themselves, but the real victory lies in mastering the small, daily disciplines that no one sees. Women, on the other hand, often carry emotional weight and external expectations, and for them, small, consistent steps are an act of reclaiming power, a reminder that progress doesn't need permission, only persistence. The human mind craves results, and when they don't come fast, frustration sets in. But the compound effect doesn't announce itself. It hides in the routine, in the days you feel nothing is changing. Then suddenly, after months of effort, everything begins to shift, not because something magical happened, but because your consistency finally reached critical mass. Men begin to see their bodies change, their confidence rise, their businesses grow. Women begin to feel their strength solidify, their mindset sharpen, their self-worth expand. What seemed invisible becomes undeniable. The secret is learning to fall in love with the process, not just the progress. The daily grind, that's where champions are built. You can't demand giant leaps without respecting small steps. Every habit, every routine, every choice you make is casting a vote for the person you're becoming. One small decision today might seem meaningless, but stack those decisions for 30, 60, 90 days, and you've written your identity. The man who chooses discipline over distraction, the woman who chooses consistency over comfort, they're both setting up victories that the world won't see until much later. Success doesn't reward intensity, it rewards endurance. The small daily steps may not give you adrenaline, but they give you something far more powerful. Stability. They anchor your focus, they keep you grounded in purpose, and they allow you to move forward no matter how chaotic life becomes. Men and women who understand this truth don't chase perfection, they chase progress. They know that doing something, even something small, every day builds a foundation stronger than any burst of effort ever could. When you show up daily, you build trust with yourself. You start to believe in your ability to create change, and that belief fuels even greater consistency. It's a cycle of empowerment. The more you do, the more capable you feel, and the more capable you feel, the more you do. That's how giant leaps happen, not from one explosive moment, but from thousands of small, invisible steps taken with faith, purpose, and persistence. Those daily steps become your edge, your momentum, your secret power, the quiet force that turns dreams into reality over time. Momentum doesn't appear out of nowhere. It's created through action. Too many people sit and wait for the perfect wave to ride, not realizing they're supposed to build it themselves. Momentum isn't luck. It's not inspiration. It's not a feeling that visits you when life is convenient. It's a force you earn through repetition, commitment, and the refusal to stop when the results are slow. Every small action compounds. Every consistent step adds friction to your old patterns and traction to your new path. Momentum begins the moment you decide to move, even when you don't feel ready. Both men and women have the same craving for progress, but they approach it through different emotional filters. Men often look for intensity. They want the big push, the adrenaline, the challenge that makes them feel alive. But that hunger for quick results can be their downfall. Momentum doesn't thrive on explosions. It thrives on rhythm. It grows quietly through the daily grind, through persistence when enthusiasm fades. Women, on the other hand, often wrestle with the weight of responsibility, with emotions that fluctuate between confidence and doubt. For them, momentum becomes a healing power, a reminder that consistent movement dissolves fear, that forward motion quiets the noise of perfectionism. When both learn that momentum is built, not found, they unlock a power that never runs out. The human mind is wired for inertia. It resists change because change feels unsafe. The hardest part of creating momentum is starting, because the mind loves comfort more than growth. But once you push past that initial resistance, the energy shifts, every step forward becomes easier than the last. The man who forces himself to take action on day 1 will struggle. By day 20, he's unstoppable. The woman who battles hesitation in the beginning soon finds herself flowing with confidence and rhythm. That's the beauty of momentum. It transforms effort into energy. What once felt heavy begins to feel natural, even effortless. Momentum is not about speed, it's about direction. Most people confuse movement with progress. They're busy but not productive. They chase everything yet master nothing. Building momentum means focusing your energy like a laser, not scattering it like confetti. Men who learn to channel their focus into consistent execution start to feel their power multiply. Women who align their actions with their purpose find that their intuition accelerates. When your direction is clear, your energy compounds. When your energy compounds, momentum becomes inevitable. There's a psychological shift that happens once momentum starts working in your favor. Your confidence grows not because everything's easy, but because you've proven to yourself that you can endure. Men begin to operate from conviction rather than doubt. Women begin to move from clarity rather than hesitation. It's no longer about whether they can do it. It's about how far they can go. Momentum feeds belief, and belief feeds consistency. It becomes a self-sustaining cycle that keeps you driving forward long after motivation has faded. Every great transformation begins with friction. The first few days of change always feel slow, awkward, and uncomfortable. But that resistance is not a sign of failure. It's proof you're building power. Just like a rocket burns the most fuel at liftoff, your biggest energy cost comes at the start. Once you're in motion, it takes far less to keep moving. That's why the most successful people don't wait to feel ready. They act knowing readiness comes from movement itself. Men and women who take that first imperfect step create the force that carries them forward. Momentum is built by showing up even when there's no sign of progress. It's forged in the repetition of small, deliberate actions that stack up until they form an unstoppable flow. You don't find momentum, you create it through consistency, through courage, through the decision to keep moving no matter what stands in your way. Once it's built, it becomes your engine, a force that doesn't ask for permission, doesn't depend on motivation, and doesn't stop until you've rewritten what's possible. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary isn't talent, it's consistency. Most people believe greatness is born out of rare genius, luck, or divine timing, but that's a lie. Greatness is built through the quiet, often unseen repetition of ordinary actions. The truth is, ordinary people with extraordinary consistency outperform the gifted who lack discipline. You don't need to do something massive to change your life. You need to do something small, repeatedly, until it transforms you. Consistency is what takes potential and turns it into power, what turns dreams into reality, and what separates the talkers from the doers. Every man and woman begins as ordinary, but it's what they choose to repeat daily that defines who they become. For men, consistency is the bridge between ambition and achievement. It molds discipline into dominance. Every workout completed, every hour of focus, every promise kept to themselves becomes a brick in the foundation of their strength. Over time, those repetitions build an identity of reliability, the kind of power that doesn't crumble under pressure. For women, consistency becomes the silent rebellion against doubt and distraction. It's not about perfection, it's about showing up through chaos, emotions, and expectations. When a woman commits to her growth daily, she becomes unstoppable because consistency gives her control over the one thing that matters most, her direction. The psychology of consistency is simple yet profound. The human brain learns to trust what it experiences repeatedly. When your actions align with your intentions over time, your self-belief deepens. You start to see yourself as capable, disciplined, and worthy. That's how confidence is built, not through pep talks, but through proof. Every time you follow through, you reinforce the story that you can be counted on. For men, that creates a quiet, unshakable confidence. For women, it creates emotional certainty, a powerful sense that no matter what life throws their way, they can adapt, persist, and rise again. Consistency is the great amplifier. It doesn't make things easier. It makes you stronger. The man who practices his craft daily doesn't just improve his skill, he sharpens his identity. The woman who commits to her goals daily doesn't just make progress, she rewires her mindset for success. Over time, consistency transforms repetition into rhythm and effort into excellence. The difference between those who stay stuck and those who soar isn't intensity, it's endurance. The ones who win are not the ones who do the most once, they're the ones who do a little more again and again. Every breakthrough you admire in others was built on consistency long before the world noticed. The body, the business, the relationship, the peace, none of it came from a single decision, but from thousands of small intentional ones. Men who rise to greatness are often not the most gifted. They're simply the most relentless. They kept showing up when others gave up. Women who achieve mastery in their lives aren't fueled by luck, they're fueled by repetition. They built strength through steady steps while others waited for the right time. Consistency is the quiet force behind every loud success story. The beauty of consistency is that it turns habits into identity. At first, you're forcing yourself to act. Eventually, you become the kind of person who acts naturally. It stops being a battle and starts being who you are. Men begin to operate from a place of certainty rather than struggle. Women begin to radiate confidence born from integrity, the deep knowing that they can trust themselves to follow through. That's the true transformation when consistency shifts from something you do into something you are. Ordinary effort applied daily becomes extraordinary over time. The actions themselves might look small, the progress invisible, but behind the scenes, something powerful is taking shape. Consistency compounds. It multiplies results, magnifies confidence, and rewires your entire state of being. It's not the grand moments that define greatness. It's the moments you refuse to quit, the days you show up when no one's watching, and the quiet repetition that turns ordinary lives into extraordinary legacies. Perfection is the biggest lie holding people back from progress. Everyone wants to get it right before they start. The perfect plan, the perfect timing, the perfect conditions. But perfection is a trap, a disguise for fear. You don't need to be perfect, you need to be persistent. The people who win in life aren't the ones who do it flawlessly. They're the ones who keep showing up, learning, adjusting, and growing. Perfection is static. Persistence is power. One keeps you frozen, the other keeps you moving forward when everything around you screams to stop. Men and women both suffer from the illusion of perfection, but in different ways. Men often fear failure because they tie their worth to performance. If they stumble, they see it as weakness. But real strength isn't in being flawless. It's in refusing to quit when you fall. Women, on the other hand, battle the pressure of comparison, constantly measuring themselves against impossible standards. They carry the emotional weight of not enough, not smart enough, not strong enough, not fast enough. But the truth is, progress doesn't belong to the perfect, it belongs to the persistent. Every step forward, even messy, is better than standing still in fear of imperfection. Persistence rewires your psychology. Every time you push through resistance, your brain starts to recognize discomfort not as danger, but as growth. You begin to crave progress more than you fear failure. The man who learns to persist through setbacks becomes unshakable because he no longer seeks validation, he seeks evolution. The woman who persists through self-doubt becomes powerful because she no longer waits for approval. She creates momentum through action. The world doesn't reward the most talented, it rewards the most relentless. The obsession with perfection kills momentum before it starts. People wait to feel ready, to have the confidence, to gain clarity. But those things only come after you move. The greatest mistake is believing that success requires flawless execution. It doesn't. It requires persistence through imperfection. Men who take small, consistent action every day build resilience. Women who embrace imperfect effort build inner freedom. Because when you stop trying to be perfect, you finally give yourself permission to grow. You shift from pressure to progress. Persistence transforms mistakes into mastery. Every failure becomes feedback. Every setback becomes a setup for strength. The man who dares to act, fail, and try again becomes more capable than the one who only plans. The woman who keeps moving through fear becomes unstoppable because she's learned the most valuable lesson of all, that consistency creates confidence, not the other way around. Growth demands imperfection. It demands movement. It demands showing up on the days you feel unprepared, uncertain, or uninspired. The beauty of persistence is that it builds power silently. It doesn't shout for attention. It earns it through endurance. You don't have to be the best today. You just have to be better than yesterday. Each repetition of effort compounds. Each small victory adds to your momentum. Men begin to realize that persistence builds their edge more than perfection ever could. Women discover that persistence makes them magnetic, not because they're flawless, because they're fearless in their pursuit. The longer you stay in the game, the more the game bends in your favor. Perfection is about control. Persistence is about courage. One seeks comfort, the other demands growth. The moment you let go of the need to do it perfectly, you free yourself to do it powerfully. Every imperfect step you take is carving out a new standard for who you are becoming. The man who refuses to stop after failure becomes the man who cannot be defeated. The woman who keeps going after rejection becomes the woman who cannot be ignored. That's the secret. You don't rise because you're perfect. You rise as you persist when others don't. Winning isn't about doing something once and succeeding. It's about doing it over and over until success has no choice but to happen. The world celebrates results, but it ignores repetition. Every great achievement is built on countless unseen repetitions, the ones nobody clapped for, the ones done in silence. Frustration and fatigue. The secret is simple: repeat until you win, and then repeat again, because the moment you stop repeating, you stop growing. Success isn't a one-time event, it's a cycle, a rhythm, a lifestyle. Men and women both want progress, but their internal battles with repetition are different. Men crave variety. They want to feel challenged, to feel the rush of something new. But mastery comes from repetition, from doing the same thing better, deeper, stronger each time. Women, on the other hand, often fight the exhaustion of consistency, the emotional toll of showing up when results are invisible. But repetition isn't punishment, it's preparation. Every time you repeat, you reinforce strength. Every time you persist through boredom or doubt, you carve a groove of excellence into your identity. Repetition is how your mind and body learn alignment. The first time you do something, it feels awkward. The second time, it feels familiar. The 100th time, it feels natural. That's how success is wired, not through talent, but through the willingness to endure repetition long enough to transform effort into instinct. Men who commit to repeating the right actions, the daily grind, the small disciplines, build power that doesn't depend on emotion. Women who repeat their routines despite resistance create confidence that doesn't rely on outside validation. Repetition removes uncertainty. It builds certainty through evidence. The psychology behind it is simple. The brain learns through pattern, not promise. It doesn't care what you intend. It believes what you repeat. Every action you take becomes a vote for the person you're becoming. When you repeat your commitments, you're teaching your subconscious that you're trustworthy, capable, and relentless. Men start to operate with purpose, not pressure. Women start to act with clarity, not comparison. Repetition rewires identity, and identity sustains momentum. That's why the ones who win are not the ones who try hardest once. They're the ones who never stop trying. The truth about repetition is that it will test your patience. It will make you doubt your path, your pace, even your purpose. But that's the cost of greatness. Repetition separates the dabblers from the dominators. Every time you fail and rise again, you strengthen your mental muscle. Every time you fall short but keep repeating, you're building the habit of resilience. Men learn to channel their aggression into persistence instead of frustration. Women learn to turn emotional endurance into empowerment instead of exhaustion. Through repetition, both discover that progress isn't always visible, but it's always happening. Winning once can be luck, but winning again and again requires mastery. That's why the truly great never stop repeating. The man who builds his body doesn't quit when he hits his goal. He repeats the discipline that got him there. The woman who achieves her dream doesn't rest on success. She repeats the mindset that made it possible. Repetition after victory is what keeps success alive. Without it, confidence fades, hunger dies, and momentum disappears. Winners don't celebrate and stop. They celebrate and continue. They know repetition is not just how you reach success. It's how you retain it. Repetition is your greatest teacher. Every cycle of effort reveals something new, a better strategy, a deeper lesson, a sharper version of yourself. The man who repeats despite setbacks becomes unstoppable because he's learned that failure is temporary, but consistency is eternal. The woman who repeats through uncertainty becomes unshakable because she's discovered that motion itself is mastery. That's the essence of power. To repeat until you win and then repeat again, not because you have to, but because repetition is the rhythm of greatness.